on the new Phototherapy Live. How you guys doing?
I am doing great in Croton-on-Hudson, New York. Juan, how are you up there in Bangor, Maine?
I am doing well. It's starting. Fall is here. We're starting to get lots of color. I didn't think we would get that much color because we've had such a dry summer, but colors are pretty good. Then this weekend or 2 days ago, we had this 50-mile-an-hour wind, so half the leaves are off the trees already.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Ah,
Alec, how
that's
about
not
down by
great.
you in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania?
It's gotten cooler. There's starting to be some minor shift in the foliage, but we're still probably 2 or 3 weeks away. But make no mistake, summer in the Northeast is over.
Yes, it definitely is. But speaking of the leaves, Alec, you want to talk a little bit about the topics? And we have a fall foliage topic or an autumn topic, I think. One or the other.
Yes. So we have had some challenges because of our good friends at Facebook in terms of changing versions and how topics are how you can add a topic. But we're continuing to and we'll continue to share information like Rick's video with you and update it as Facebook changes. But we do have up now 125 live topics. We joked about the number last week. We are going to cut that down to a more manageable number. But basically, if you're doing it from a PC, a Mac or a PC, but not necessarily a MacBook Mini, you can when you hit those red dots and hit add a topic, it now has a search capability. So if you type in the first three letters of the topic you're looking for, it will appear and you can add multiple topics. So we're learning and growing as Facebook makes its changes and trying to keep up. But it's very important that you add the topics. And I will say, though, the topic this week, Rick, as we dive into it, there are just some amazing blue images.
Yeah, I don't know how we came up with this idea for the topic. I don't know how we're going to do ourselves for next week. We do this, by the way, every Thursday at 5 o'clock when we're here. So today's topic is blue, which is why I'm wearing blue, which is why Juan is wearing blue, and why Alec has a blue collared shirt on.
And a red shirt, because I just want to just keep everything centered and down the road as we move forward.
Okay. I think I know what you're saying. So anyway, what I have up on my screen, my friends, is the images that we picked from the blue topic. So I'm sharing my screen now, and Juan, can everyone see it?
Yep, I just switched over to it, so go ahead.
Cool. So for the new members, this is called Phototherapy Live, and today's topic is blue. Every week we have a new topic. Then we go through the pictures and we pick not only our favorite pictures because we think they're stunning or beautiful, but we pick different pictures that Juan and I can comment on and that we can learn from and that you can learn from. So today's topic again is blue, and we do this every Thursday again because we want to let you share your pictures, and Juan and I and the other members, we want to inspire you and motivate you. And through all this, I was going to say hard work, but through all this fun, I think we're all growing as photographers. And also for the new members, on our YouTube page, you could rewatch all the shows. Alec hosts Monday Meditations with Linda Marshall, really a good thing to do. Especially in these like crazy times with the coronavirus, the pandemic, and everything else that's going on around. The Monday meditations are really good. So anyway, all our shows are there, and we recorded a show last Thursday. So if you go to the YouTube channel, if you look for the September 21st show, this gives you an introduction. This gives you an introduction into what we're all about. Okay, so let's get going with the photos from our members, starting with this amazing picture by Tom Rees. And Alec, maybe you could tell me if Tom is here or not. Tom was with me in China on a workshop I did last year with Scott Kelby. It's the second time I did the workshop. And these are the cormorant fishermen. And we get up in the dark and we go with our headlamps on and we go down to the river, there's like a little dock about maybe 300 or 400 yards behind where these guys are. We get in a little boat and we come to this little rocky area and these guys set up their lanterns. So it is a setup shot. And these guys actually don't fish anymore because there's no fish in the river. So they are models. And Art Wolf has been doing this. A lot of my friends do this because it is just such an amazing scene. Alec actually was there with us last year also. So Juan, what do you think of this amazing shot?
Well, I mean, this is, kind of an iconic shot. We've seen this kind of image, from so many people. I think the first time I ever saw this, like you said, it was done by Art Wolf. And, I kind of wonder, were the fishermen fishing back then when he did that, or have they been models for this long? And I just love the fact that, everything in this image is just perfectly aligned. Look at the separation between all three of the fishermen. The three fishermen are in kind of, little different positions. We got the bird, a cormorant on top of the front fisherman with its wings outstretched. We have the guy in the background kind of looking straight at us so we can see the entire profile. And then we have these beautiful reflections and that light on those clouds with the mountains, the karst mountains kind of like receding into that fog. Just absolutely perfect. And that water just so still. The reflection is just... I mean, there is, this is pure perfection. If, the only, the only little nit that I have, and I say this just because it's so tiny, but, if, every image, I don't think there's such a thing as a perfect image, right? There's always little room for improvement on everything. Mm-hmm. And so the only little thing that I would say is that the horizon line is being intersected by the cormorants, especially the front cormorant. You can see that wing is right on that horizon line. The wing onto the left of that cormorant as we're looking at is right on that horizon line. But that is so minor compared to everything else about this image that it's really hardly worth mentioning.
Well, it's a good point, but what I like is, I always say to people, my number one exposure tip is expose for the highlights. And, we could see detail, in their faces here. And I think this is really, really important. Tom over here says that, he did work with this. Scott was amazing. Scott Kelby was amazing. He stayed up till 11 o'clock. Remember Alec helping people with Lightroom and Photoshop? I thought you were going to say
Tom is here, Rick.
Oh, well, Tom, welcome. I thought you were going to say one that you just saw this fisherman with he just actually had finished eating a Big Mac. So,
actually, is a Big Mac wrapper right down there?
In an animated conversation on a cell phone the next night, right?
When we were yeah. We should show the outtakes. We should show behind the scenes. But also, I think it's just a beautifully composed shot. The rule of odds, right? 3.
Right.
And also, just for our members who are new to photography, not cutting off the reflections, I think is really important. So we're going to go through. I think we have about 35 pictures. We're going to try to get through.
So Rick.
Yes.
Tom writes, actually, I used one of the fishermen from another image to get all of them in this really good gesture.
Oh, well, that's
Tom
awesome.
Is have you seen Tom's, Tom does all these composites of his grandkids, right?
Yes.
And he has
and himself.
And himself, yeah. He's amazing. Well, Tom, you know what? It's no matter what you did, it's an amazing shot. Also, Scott Kelby was here, and there were like little, ripples in the water and whatever. And Scott spent about an hour taking on his shot all of these out. So like Juan said, like all this is subjective, but I think this is just beautiful. And whatever you did, Tom, to make it work, I think is great. And Diane Gordon, she was there with us the year before. This is a totally different shot, right? A single fisherman, but this is like framed for a cover. I thought this would be nice if, if it was Cormorant Fisherman today. We could put the title up here. I thought it just had maybe more of a feeling of stillness to it. This has a nice feeling of stillness, but this, we can't see the faces. So I think it also has more of a sense of mystery. So I really like the job that Diane did here.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's exactly what I was thinking of. Mystery. This image, because we don't see the faces, we have less detail on the fishermen themselves. Feels a lot more mysterious than the previous image. And one of the sayings, right, that one of the salmonisms is dead center is deadly. But in this case, dead center works very nicely because you have this amazingly beautiful reflection, and it really draws us in into our fishermen here. Also, we see a beautiful profile on the fisherman and on the cormorant as well, with that little bit of a light of the lantern on the front of the raft lit up.
Yeah.
It really draws our eye in, and everything else is complementary to what we're seeing. So even though it's dead center, in this case, dead center is beautiful.
And also, it fills such a small part of the frame. I really like that. Now, Alec was there and got some amazing shots, but a few weeks ago, the moderators decided not to show any of their pictures because the members' pictures are so awesome.
Right.
So, but
yeah,
Alec,
my screensaver is my fisherman picture, and it's just I look at it and just say I have to change mine.
Yeah. Wasn't this, Alec, an amazing experience, getting up in the dark, leaving the hotel, going to the dock in the dark, getting on that little boat, setting up our tripods in the dark with the headlamps and everything? It was really an amazing experience.
And I'll tell you what made it even more amazing is that Andy and Mia, right, we're there with our guides going down, traveling down to the river, and we're setting everything up. And all of a sudden, Mia pulls out hot coffee and muffins and breakfast for us. I mean, it was just, and that was what this trip was like every step of the way, right? Just great people and very well done.
Yeah, well, they're great fixers. So anyway, that was a great experience. So moving on from China, Glenn Taylor took this amazing shot. Mm-hmm. I really love, this curve here, the way he used a long shutter speed. When I'm doing and teaching, nighttime photography with the tail lights like this, I say, make sure that you use a long enough shutter speed so the lights go all the way through the scene. So in other words, if the light stopped here, it would look kind of funny. So I think Glenn really picked a really nice long exposure, and it's a perfect exposure. If you think about the contrast range here from, these rocks over here to this bright sunset area over here. Is it sunset? Yeah. I love it. Juan, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I've actually shot at this specific location. I know this area really well. This is North Carolina in the Great Smoky National Park. I've shot here when I've run workshops in the Great Smokies. We've gone here to shoot at this particular location. There's a couple of really nice turns with beautiful backgrounds and whatnot, but Glenn absolutely nailed this shot. And you're right. One of the tricky parts is, making sure that you get those lights the entire way. And if you're there by yourself, I'm not sure when or how Glenn took this. If you're there by yourself, it's kind of difficult because, especially that time of night, there's not that much traffic on the Blue Ridge Parkway. So you have to, wait for a long time for a car to come by, be ready and to press that shutter at the right time. And if you get it wrong, then you miss out. So usually what I do on my workshops is that I have somebody in a car with walkie-talkie so I can direct them to go faster or slower so everybody gets the right shot. But I haven't done that in a very long time. I haven't been shooting out in Great Smokies for many years. But, Glenn absolutely nailed this shot, not just because of the way that he captured the lights of the vehicle, but because that sky is just absolutely amazing. Look at the light as it's hitting the mountains in the background with that beautiful golden light, and then you got that little bit of gold and orange on the mountains at the top. On the clouds at the top. The way that it's hitting those, really nicely done, and a nice curvature to the road as well.
You said that you usually have someone in the car with a walkie-talkie. As Alec knows, Susan and I did this on Route 66. We were by the Route 66 diner in Albuquerque. And Susan, I asked her to drive past the diner about 25 times until I got my shot. So she finally got the shot. But just one other thing on this type of photography, taillights look a lot better than headlights.
Way better.
In other words, way better. So if a car was coming here with the white lights, it would just look like a white streak. But I do like the white snow.
And then the other thing sometimes you want to do, and this is why it's better to have your own driver, is to step on the brake so the lights end up being a little brighter, depending on how much light there is. Obviously, if you're shooting like Glenn did here, where he's shooting kind of late in that sunset, then you don't need to step on the brakes. You don't need those really bright taillights. But if it's a little earlier, like for example, if that sun was just hitting the top of those mountains, right, and we get that beautiful starburst that we like to get, you're better off at that point having someone driving, stepping on the brakes as well as on the gas at the same time. So those taillights get a lot brighter and you're able to capture them a lot better. So it's just something to keep in mind when you're out there trying to make images like this.
Now, Juan, you used to shoot film, right? You started out shooting slide film.
Oh yeah. Well, no, I started out shooting black and white. Then I went to slide, to chromes. Yeah.
Well, my guess is that this shot would be impossible to get with slide film, just due to the contrast range. From, I'm sure Glenn worked with he had the raw file, so there's a lot of information in there. But to be able to see this deep into the shadows and to not lose detail in this bright area, how many stops difference do you think it is from here to like down here?
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, this was with slide film, even using a good dynamic range slide film, you wouldn't get it. You wouldn't be able to get all that. You may be able to recover some of it when you went to print, but that's a big if.
Absolutely. Alec, any comments?
People are just impressed with the images.
Cool. Okay, the next shot I think is interesting. That I picked it because usually I don't really like looking at pictures of other people's kids. I love Marco, my son. I publish them, and I just publish them for fun. But this shot, look at this shot by Pat Statler. This is one of the cutest, most amazing. It fits the topic blue, but look at those eyes. Look at the background. Look at the expression. I think this is a perfect portrait.
Yeah, that is, those eyes are completely mesmerizing. You kind of get lost looking into those eyes. And I like the effect that he did in here, this painterly kind of pastel looking effect, because it does remove some of that. And, like we like to say, right, remove some of the reality from the image. It makes us really focus on those eyes. And then that background, like you said, supporting, not distracting, but supporting and matching those eyes, it just adds that much more, gives you that sense of depth and dimension on the image. Nicely done, Pat. Very nice.
Alec, what do you think? You like photographing kids. And I know
the eyes are just mesmerizing, and we just have Pamela DeCamp writes beautiful blue eyes, and Robert Figueroa, who's back with us this week. Rick, I know we're all glad that he's back with us this week. Just says simply wow, and Sissy Wilson just says what a little angel. But it just, it just looks like one of the masters in a painting. Does.
And one of my salmonisms, getting back to Juan mentioning my salmonisms, is see eye to eye and shoot eye to eye. But here, Pat is shooting downward, and the child is looking up. I think when this session is over, this is going to be one of the pictures that people really recommend, remember.
You're right. It's interesting. You mentioned that you're right, that the shot is looking down at the kid. And typically that's not something you want to do all that often, right? Because when you shoot down at kids, it, kind of diminishes them in the scene. It doesn't, it just makes them smaller than they actually are. But I think here, because Pat focused so much on the face itself, you don't get that feeling that you're looking down on the subject. So it actually works very nicely because it makes the kid look up, which makes you look at the eyes even more. So I think beautifully done.
And speaking of tips that, the rules should be broken, Joe McNally has an interesting tip for portraits. He said, if you want an interesting portrait, don't light the subject's entire face. Right. Now, usually that works, but look at this flat, soft, flattering lighting. It's just beautiful. So again, great job, Pat. Okay, here's why we picked this picture. Whoops, Juan, what did I do?
I don't know. We can still see it. It's fine.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. So, Shillelagh,
yeah. Shillelagh, maybe.
Shillelagh.
Yeah.
I think it's an amazing picture, but I read, what she said. I took this photo, at the Wildlife Reserve, which is close to my home in LA, just before the whole area got burned down last month. So we're putting this up front here because our hearts really go out to all the people in California. My gosh, what they're what they're going through on top of everything else. I turn on the news and I see all the destruction, the homes, and you know, and all the forest areas. It's just so sad. So anyway, we wanted to say that hearts go out to you guys, but this is an amazing close-up shot. Juan is much more of a naturalist than I am. So Juan, what do you think of this beautiful image?
Well, so these guys, are a lot of fun to photograph. I love photographing the both dragonflies and damselflies. And because of the amazing, beautiful colors and the variety of colors that you can find these in, and plus those eyes are always, to me, just, I mean, I can get lost talking about eyes, because before we talked about the little girl's eyes. Some of the eyes on the dragonflies are amazing. But oftentimes what happens when you try to get close up to these guys, they fly away, so they can be a little bit challenging. Plus, when we're trying to get these macros, it's hard to get everything in focus, especially in a situation like this when they're on a little reed or leaf that may be blowing in the wind, and trying to get everything in focus, that whole dragonfly is sometimes challenging. And I think Shalila did a really good job here in trying to get the entire subject in focus. Yeah, we're going to lose some of that focus on the sharpness on the wings, but that's fine, and that gives a sense of depth to the image and to the wings of our dragonfly. So nicely captured, nicely done. The other thing that's challenging with these guys is the light, right? You want a lot of light because you want to use a small aperture to get that deeper depth of field, but then you get really bright light on the top and kind of dark on the lower part of the body of our insect. But here that contrast is much reduced. It's a lot softer, so we can see a lot of detail on the bottom of our insect as well as on the top. So very nicely done.
It's very, very nice. Okay, David Stern. I love this abstract here. It's just
wow.
It popped off the page. I didn't know what I was really looking at. So he just says oil and water macro. Just beautiful. Very simple, right? But it's just so beautiful. It has a soft feeling, very relaxing feeling to me, and nicely exposed too. From we have these highlights and we have the shadow detail. Very nice.
Yeah, I think that what really makes this image is, whatever was behind it, right? That is causing or creating those patterns of blue and white and the different tones of blue in the background. And the way that the oil and the water kind of diffusing that. We're adding out some texture to it as well as the bubble. So nicely done. And, I think finding that right background is important for this, don't you think?
Well, the background, like here we have a nice clean background. Right. Here we have a totally different type of background. So, the background, I always say beware of the background. Getting back to this shot and getting back to the rules, I remember when I used to get Kodak slide film, I think one of the tips was, or the photographers back then would say, never take a picture between 10 and 2, right? Because the sun was like overhead, right? You heard it.
Yeah,
but
of course.
Here you can see it's
lived
probably
it.
Pardon?
I said lived it.
Yeah, yes. You lived it, right?
Right.
Yeah. But now, with RAW and whatever. But anyway, you can see where the shadow is. So I think it's really important to not only look at the highlights, what Juan was talking about, and he did say we could see into the shadows down here, but also to look where those shadows are, because the shadows do add to the picture. Okay, so Vicky, I told Vicky, I think I have a comment here, one of the very best photographs I've seen of a sandhill crane in flight. She was on one of the Denise Ippolito workshops in Bosque dell'Apache. I'm glad she put it in the blue category. I might have put it if it were my shot. I don't have a shot anywhere near as good as, or creative or as graceful as this. I might have put it in beautiful birds, but I'm glad she put it in the blue category because we're just so glad, again, to show the talent of our members, and they go, at this time of coronavirus, everyone's home. We're not traveling around the world, and they're going through their files. So I think this is just a great job. I know, Juan, you like using the slow shutter speeds, and you also know that it's not easy to get a shot like this.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. This intentional movement, which is what some people like to call this, both intentional movement or slow shutter photography, is hard, and it's a numbers game in that you have to can take a lot of images in order to get one that works. Because, especially when you're shooting an animal that's moving like this. I mean, think about birds in flight. Birds in flight is one of the hardest type of photography you're going to do. The fact that you're also trying to add intentional movement into the scene makes it that much harder. And then you have to make a bunch of shots because you're not always going to get it. Like in this case, we have a lot of movement that's beautiful on the wings and on the legs, on the body of the bird, but our head is nice and still. Birds are kind of amazing in that the bodies can move and they can maintain their heads really nicely and still, but it's still very difficult to get them to get a shot like this. It's, again, a numbers game. You got to make a bunch of images and hope that one of them, comes out. And I think that all that work, Vicky, that you went through and all those, which the worst part is not taking the images. The worst part is culling through the images, right? And getting rid of all the bad shots. To me, that's just, an insane amount of work, especially when you're shooting high frame rates to try to capture this. So very, very, very nicely done. It's beautiful. And yeah, I mean, Denise is, both you and I know Denise well, and she's the master at intentional movement or slow shutter photography.
Yeah, for our members, look up Denise Ippolito. She is just an amazing. I forget her site, Alec. Maybe you can look it up while we're talking. Something about artistry. Anyway, adding to what Juan said. Vicky's probably using, Juan, you've been there, I've been there. She's probably using at least a 500 or 600 millimeter lens, right? In addition to trying to track the bird and the focus and the slow shutter speed. And she might be hand holding, but my guess is she has it on a tripod with the gimbal head surrounded by other photographers, right?
Right.
So this is not an easy shot to get.
Yeah, Denise calls her workshops a creative adventure. So because that's what she specializes in, is getting creative about subjects that most people would shoot straight on. She kind of takes a different take on them and tries to get everybody in her workshops to be very creative.
I also think it was nice that Vicky gave her credit. So, another one of my Simonisms is, always give credit where credit is due.
Yes.
Okay, Claude.
So just a couple of comments to get caught up on this particular image. Gwenna writes, such a soft feel with motion. And just going back to David's for a second, he wrote in that he used wrapping paper for the background.
Oh, that's a creative idea.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
That's very cool. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Alec. Okay, Claude. Claude has been here before. Look at these blue lights. Again, Steve Brazel, you've been on his show, right, Juan?
Yeah, absolutely.
The Behind the Shot podcast, it's on YouTube. So anyway, check out his website too, Beyond the Shot TV, Steve Brazel. Anyway, he's a rock star and a rock concert photographer. He would love this shot. Not an easy shot to get, Claude, because of the contrast range. Once again, he has a good exposure of the guitar player, the good exposure of the lights. I like the way he framed the shot where the guitar player is not dead center, where we could see the drummer and the bass player over there, or we could see some of the heads of the people in the foreground. I think it's a really cool, as a musician also, I think it's a really cool shot.
I mean, these shots are a little bit difficult, don't you think, Rick? Because the lights are changing constantly. And that's part of the show, right? They're changing the lights, and getting the right exposure sometimes can be challenging. And one thing that I like, which you mentioned, is the fact that, and we talk about this with wildlife photography and nature photography, is context, putting your subject in its environment, in the context. And that's one of the things I really love about this image, is that we feel like we're part of the audience looking at this, because we feel like we're in there. We can see the entire environment, if you will, of this particular shot. So nicely done, Claude.
And I wish, if he's here, Alec, maybe you could ask him to share the ISO, because I'm sure he was shooting at a high ISO, but as Juan and I always say, it's much better to get a shot with some noise in it, right, than a blurry shot. We could see, I think he's actually playing an E7 chord. Only kidding. Okay, the next shot, Gene Duffy. I really love the feeling of this. I love the mood. I love the clouds. I love the background. There's only one thing. I love the position of the hands, in in portraits like this, environmental portraits, where you could see the hands, the position, as any painter will tell you. You look at, Leonardo da Vinci's paintings, Michelangelo's work. The hands are so very, very important. So the hands look really good. The face looks really good. But I really would have liked to have seen the feet. So if she had just been standing over here or over here, it looks kind of like, her feet are like cut off here. So that's my only criticism of this. But I do love I love the mood. I love the feeling of it, which is the most important thing. That's why I gave it an A+.
Yeah, I mean, I for me, the clouds kind of make it, right? In that it gives you, the clouds are, I think, what have a large part to do of, I can't get the words out, have a large part to do with setting the mood of this particular shot. You do feel like, someone that's kind of lost, melancholic, but I think part of it is the clouds. The way that she is looking towards the opening, the clouds, is kind of a natural way for her to be looking. You kind of feel emotion of those clouds kind of going in a clockwise direction, and she's looking in that direction. If she'd be looking in the other one, you have a little bit of contrast in tension, exactly, in the image. But the fact that she's looking to the right with the direction those clouds are moving gives you that different sense of it's not calmness, but it's of feeling and mystery as well, like we talked about earlier.
And this picture is the opposite of this. Here we're looking down on the subject, right? And here we're looking up at the subject. So that angle, that height at which you photograph really makes a big difference in the impact of your picture. So definitely, my expression is, use your camera like a spaceship, but Juan told me to update it to use your camera like a drone. So, move it up and down. But really, Gene, that's why I gave this an A+. I just thought the mood and the feelings. So this is just like a little thing. Okay, Doug, I think we've seen Doug here before. Doug Bucklew. Yes.
Absolutely.
I've seen a lot of pictures. I'm sure you have too, Juan, right? Half done, but I haven't seen a picture like this with these beautiful clouds and the mist and the blue sky. I really like it. Even though it is, like you said, like with Diane Gordon's picture, like kind of like dead center is deadly. I think it kind of works here for me anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think maybe I would have zoomed in a little bit, maybe cropped in a little tighter, because I do love the framing of the clouds on the lower part of the scene, as well as on the left part of the scene. But there's maybe a little too much of the clouds and not enough of a Capitan. So I would, Half Dome. I would zoom in a little bit more and cut out some of those clouds on the bottom, and especially on the bottom right. But I do love the way that it is framed. I love those clouds in the foreground. It felt like, someone was out there and they just got a lucky break from that the cloudy day that they were encountering. So very nicely done, very beautiful.
I saw Alex smiling. And I wonder if this is why he was smiling, because Juan, and you're recording now. This is going to be live on live on YouTube. This is the first time ever you didn't say so. You did it because I know you like breathing room. A lot of times you look at pictures. You say, I like, what? I love the shot. It's an amazing shot, but just like a little more breathing room. So this is the first time in the history of Phototherapy Live, Mr. Juan Pons has ever said, I think. Zoom in
a little bit more, right?
That could be the first Ponism.
That could be the first Ponism.
Ponism, there you go, yeah. I'm sure it's not the first, but it's probably the most memorable.
Well, there you go. That builds the momentum to keep going on the challenge.
Yeah.
Okay, Ron Johnson. Susan and I have been here to we have been to the Monterey. It looks like
I've been there too. Yeah,
in Newport. But we were saying about this, that there's people in the foreground, you feel like you're there. Here, there's people in the foreground, so you feel like you're there. So I really like this is not an easy exposure to get, but we also have like the rule of odds, like we saw, Tom created in his picture there. I like the movement of the sea nettles. It's just a beautiful blue, moody shot to me.
Yeah, I've been here before too, and it is an absolutely, inspiring place. I mean, I just love the Monterey Aquarium. And yeah, I mean, the one in Newport also has these big tanks of jellyfish, but not like Monterey Aquarium. These are bigger and greater, and they have lots of different ones with different kinds of jellyfish. This one just happens to be one of the most beautiful ones. And by the way, if you ever need a little bit of relaxation, they have a webcam on this online, so on YouTube. So you can watch this live, and it's very calming, I have to say. I have watched it from time to time. And I do like, the sense of place that the image conveys by having the people in it, but you also want to zoom in and get nice and tight on some of these guys. It's a little bit hard to do that if you want to get a nice clean shot of one of the jellyfish, because there's so many of them and their tentacles are so long. Oftentimes they overlap and you get some collisions or between them, if you will. But you just have to be patient, which is, not hard to do in a place like this, because it is mesmerizing and so soothing to watch these guys floating by.
Well, speaking of zooming in, there we go.
There we go.
Look,
Look at that.
Here they're going up, here they're going down, here they're going up. I love the feeling of this one too. You talked about zooming in. So when you're in a situation like this, I would recommend doing it both ways. Move back at the people and then zoom in for a beautiful. This is more of this is like a documentary type shot, and I think this Heidi, this is more of an artistic, a beautiful artistic image. It's just the color, the exposure. So the trick here is to not get reflections, not to get your reflection. Right. So the first thing I do, if I'm going to go to do something like this, I'm going to wear black. If I wear a white, a white shirt, that might be reflected. So if you want to shoot close and you're really serious, you might want to get like a rubber lens hood and hold your camera as close as you can, to the glass. So that way you'll get no reflections. But when you're doing this, move around. There's a little bit of reflection down here that, I just noticed. But, you could clone that out or use Content Aware or whatever. But are there any reflections up here there's some reflections in here that we could see. You might want to try a polarizing filter, but my guess is it's so dark in there that you don't want to really reduce the light. So my tip would be wear something dark, get a rubber lens hood, shoot close, and watch for reflections.
The best thing to do also, Rick, is to get there first thing in the morning so the place is empty, right? So you don't have all these people. You're not competing with these people, and you're not getting reflection from other people walking in there. So just beautiful. I mean, I love these guys. They're just so much fun to watch.
Yeah, they are. Alec, maybe you could use this on Monday meditation with Linda.
I'll talk to Linda.
Okay. Okay, so speaking of close-ups, Vicky did this a beautiful shot. The colors here, the raven's feathers, right, at Glacier National Park in Montana. I think they're just beautiful. Maybe the picture could be a little lighter, a little brighter, but again, it's the mood, it's the feeling that's conveyed here. I really like it.
Yeah, I love the iridescence on the feathers, which is really cool. But this is another one, Rick, where I would zoom in some more. Less breathing room as opposed to more breathing room. because
you're saying this doesn't add anything to it.
Right, exactly. At the very top, you got that dark part. Plus, part of the thrill with these images, and I think one of the things that makes these images attractive is when you try to take some of the reality away, like we like to say, right? Make it a little bit more abstract. And by zooming in, you're making it a little bit more abstract. You're focusing more on some of the iridescence that you see on the feathers. And you can get rid of parts of the image that don't add anything to the scene.
Yeah. If it doesn't add, take it out.
Right.
But I still like the mood and the feeling. Okay, the next one, Juan, you photographed these guys, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely awesome.
Look at the eyes. Also in bird photography, Juan and I think I don't know if we did it or we talked about doing the battle of the bird photography tips. But one tip is wings up or wings down, right?
Right.
And if the eyes aren't in focus, and we'll let you miss the shot. So I just love this. So maybe Juan, you could talk a little bit about what you love about this snowy owl.
The snowy owl.
It's
yeah,
beautiful.
I mean, Yeah, I mean, snowy owls are such probably just one of the most majestic owls out there, and they're just so stark and so beautiful, especially when they're out in the snow because they kind of blend in. If you're lucky, you'll get to see one that has like almost no dark barring on them, and they're like pure white. And getting to see these guys in the snow, it's absolutely incredible. So the first thing that we notice about these owls is just how incredibly beautiful and piercing their eyes are. Then the second thing that you notice is these incredibly sharp, long claws that they use to capture their prey. And if you're in the presence of these guys, the third thing that you notice is that they're completely silent when they're flying. This is an adaptation that the owls have gone through, over millennia, that they are absolutely silent. And they need to be silent because they're hunting at night in most cases. And snowy owls actually are diurnal owls, so they actually hunt during the day most often. But they do hunt at night as well. But being completely silent is very advantageous to them. What I like about this particular image is both, like you said, the wings are down, so you get to see a lot of the shape of the wings. You get to see a lot of the shape and depth of the owl itself. The fact that we can see its eyes, the way it's looking at us. And the fact that we also have a little bit of movement on those wingtips, which I always like to have. I like to have that movement on the wingtips because it gives you a sense of motion. If wings were completely still, the birds look like they're floating in midair to me. So I don't like them as much when they're completely still. I like to have that little bit of movement on it. Now, the one thing I would do is clone that reed that's going all the way up to the bird.
This one, yeah.
Yeah, that one I would take it out just because it looks like it's piercing the bird. We know it's not, but it kind of looks like it's piercing the bird. And I think the image would feel a lot cleaner and nicer if you got rid of that little twig completely.
Yeah. I love all the open space here, the negative space. But, these reeds, I think this would be a totally different picture, like here. And what Juan and I always say, what you learn in one area of photography, you could apply to another. So here, we have the foreground. Where was the rock concert one? We have, the people here. So these reeds here, I think, really add to this. So I have to talk to Vicky, Susan and I. Susan, I think she's over in the house. We have to get in touch with Vicky, find out where on Long Island she photographs these guys, because this is great. I'm going to try to move this one picture up here, since we're just talking about the birds. One more. There we go. So, yes, I like that little bit of blur, but we can still get an amazing shot. Mark was with us, right, Juan, on our Bosque workshop?
Yeah, he was, yes. I wonder if that was with us.
That I don't know.
Yeah.
This is a heron, so I don't know. But anyway, this is an amazing shot. He has a little bit of blur here, but look at the blue background. I like, he calls it the flasher. So but look at the wings. Look at the eyes. Again, if the eye's not in focus and well lit, you've missed the shot. We have a beautiful background. Everything about this picture I really love.
Isn't it incredible how
Rick,
these... Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Juan. No, just before we move on from the owl picture, people were just amazed with the eyes.
Yeah.
That they could look into the eyes all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the eyes are literally that bright orangey yellow. They're just incredible. They're just, so it's not that the eyes were enhanced to make them look that beautiful. They are that beautiful.
Well, Karsh of Ottawa said the eyes are the windows to the soul, but he actually stole it from the Greeks. But he took credit for it was a Karshism. But it is true. It's really about the eyes in wildlife photography and in people photography. But Mark, this is just a beautiful, and we talk about gesture, right? Gesture in people photography, gesture in animal photography. Yeah.
Isn't it amazing how bizarre GBHs look from this angle when they're coming in compared when we see them? There's these beautiful regal birds, there's smooth feathers, everything, and here they look like they're scraggly with some big thighs, like drumsticks or whatnot. Yeah. But this is how they are, especially when they're coming in for landing. We see this when we photograph also the the cranes, right, when they're coming into land. But there's something about the great blue heron, the GBHs, that just they look so funny when you're able to get a shot like this.
Yeah, not that appetizing over here.
No, no,
But,
no.
everyone liked it. So if Mark is here, everyone liked your title. So for our members, if you want to put a title on your picture, this would be like a fun thing to do, and maybe add some technical information like some people did, like Vicky did over here. So just a suggestion. We love having you here. Okay, Dale. I don't think we've had one of Dale Doolittle's pictures, but it's got a lot of likes. On Instagram, if you want to get a lot of likes, do a sunrise or a sunset
Right.
shot. But nevertheless, I gave this one an A+ over here. A lot of people like this. Again, in these we could say cloudy times, seeing some rays of sunshine. This is very welcome. I might have underexposed this just a little bit to get a clearer circle of light there, but I think the composition is really nice. Those rays are nice. The rocks here, they kind of like listen. At first, I was going to say make them a little darker, but I just actually today I wish I were there. So great job, Dale.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful, beautiful shot. The like you said, the rays coming off of the sun, the way they're traveling through the clouds, the fact that we have this little bit of water reflecting, and then I do like that texture in the foreground. I do like to see that that environment that we're in. The way that the image is framed with elements on the top, on the left, on the right, really makes the shot nicely done, Dale. Very, very nicely composed shot. And, again, being there at the right time, right? Being there for when that sun, came down from those clouds. I'm assuming this is sunset or sunrise. So as the sun was coming up, it cleared those clouds that were way far in the distance and then started hitting those clouds that were closer to you, which makes those rays really, really pop out. Nicely done.
And you know what? I'm looking over here, which is why I do it this way so we could see the pictures. This picture has something in common with this picture, which has something in common with this picture, which has something in common with this picture. And they're all cropped basically square. So cropping really gives us a second chance at composition. A wildlife photographer, one. I won't mention his name, but him. He's very well known. He says you have to get it right in camera. He's totally against cropping. I don't know if you know who I'm speaking about, but
I know.
Pardon?
I know who it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm a big fan of cropping. Like why, just like with this picture, crop this out. You don't need it. So cropping, if you want to think about that, it really gives us a second chance at composition. We'd love to get through all of these, so I think we're going to have to speed this up a little bit. Bridget, I think she's in Mallorca. I'm not sure.
She is, and she actually left to go to bed, but we'll be watching the video tomorrow.
Oh, too bad. I should have moved this up.
It's 8 hours ahead there, so that's why.
But I thought that, again, we have a little bit of sense of mystery. What I like about this is kind of a tricky exposure. We have detail in the shadow here. We have, nice highlights here. We could see underwater. It's not in the center. I think there was another picture here that gave, no, it wasn't this. I forget which one it was, but had a nice feeling to it. I just love this. And, as Juan and I always say, it's the mood, it's the feeling is the most important thing.
Yeah, go ahead, Rick. Let's, I'm not going to comment on everyone so that we can make a little bit of progress.
Gene, look at this one.
Wow.
Okay.
Yes.
This is, hear what Juan said? That's the first time you said, wow.
Yeah, that's beautiful, amazing.
Yeah, this is a dwarf miniature morning glory.
Yeah, I was going to say, this must be a morning glory of some kind.
Okay, Susan Salmon would like this. Get this. Oh, I have cell phone shot with magnifier. Thank you, Susan Salmon, for demonstrating at Delray Beach, Florida. That's funny. I didn't read the whole thing. You know what? Again, we pick these pictures. We look at them. We say, what can we learn from them? And I just thought this was beautiful. So I think that's kind of funny. So Susan Salmon was listening over in the house. Good for you. But, look at these water droplets here. I think this is just a spectacular shot.
You know
And look
what I
at this
really
one over
like
here.
about this is, I mean, a couple of things that I think Jeannie did really well is, you know, first it's not centered right. We have
Yeah.
the center of the flower a little bit off to the side. She gave enough room for those stamens, you know, down at the bottom that been, I guess, a little collapsed by the water, but it's kind of cool because it actually allows us to see them in the same plane of focus. But I think
Yeah.
what's really mesmerizing to me, what really draws me into this image, is all the little, very delicate hairs on the petals and the way that they're moving around and the little circles that they make around the water droplets. Plus, the color is just absolutely stunning.
So cell phone, kind of
Cell
interesting,
phone,
right?
yeah, absolutely. You get a
Okay,
nice
well,
deep depth of field.
okay, Juan, what do you think of this shot?
Oh man, look at that. Kevin, this is awesome. This is really, really nicely done. Yeah, look at the clouds on that moon. They're just stunning.
I thought the clouds were cool. The reflection over here, he got the light because, you know, this goes around. He couldn't miss that. We have the reflection here. It's not in the center. He got a lot of likes here. I said perfect. What are some of the other comments? Great job. So anyway, we are having so much fun looking at these pictures. Juan, you and I have both been to Antarctica. This is kind of like the dream shot, like shooting through an iceberg with one in the backgrounds, with another iceberg in the background. I might have underexposed a little to see the detail there, or added some texture in Lightroom, which might have brought it out.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that I would have liked to see tone down the highlights here on the left, because you start getting confused as to what's going on the left, and then on that far iceberg. But yeah, you're right. I mean, having that arch in the iceberg is something we're always looking for, and this arch is absolutely perfect. It's absolutely symmetrical. So, great eye, great catch for sure.
And you know what else, Juan? As you know, no one else in the history of the world is going to get this exact shot because
That's
this
right.
iceberg's gone.
That's
And
right.
the next day it's going to, this could collapse or whatever.
Right.
So great job, Linda. Our friend Mike Cullivan, not only I think is this a great shot, he's up by you, Juan. Look at the, the detail and everything. But I love the frame and the drop shadow frame he put on. So the tip for our members is, if you get a picture, put a nice frame around it. I think Mike maybe has a template, but I think he did an amazing job doing the frame, adding the frame here.
Yeah, very, very nicely done. I love pictures of the blue ice.
Yeah, I love the gesture here. This guy seems to be looking over here. Okay, Juan, you have a dog. You don't have a cat, right?
No, I have two dogs, no cats.
What do you think of this one?
That is really cool. It reminds me. I've done a lot of images like this in Cuba, because there's lots of dogs in a lot of places. People love dogs, and people have them in the balconies and stuff. And oftentimes they're looking out like this. So I love this image. Even though I'm not a cat person, I'm a dog person. I will still, I can appreciate them. It's a beautiful cat. Kind of intriguing, looking at the eyes, the way that they're looking at us and straight at us. So. And the composition is simple, yet it tells us a lot, right? There's a little story here that you can make up in your head, and those are the images that always attract us the most, the ones that we can come up with a story behind them.
Yeah, and look, he was waiting to go to Antarctica when he took
Oh,
the
yeah, I
shot.
see that, yeah.
So a lot of people are so focused, like, I don't know if you read the book Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
Of course.
And it's about a father and son going across country. The father wants to enjoy it and the son wants to get there, right? So that could be the same thing with a photographer. Some photographers would say, oh, I'm going to get the best shots in Antarctica and not be looking around for shots. But Steve, I think, did a really good job there. Well, Claude, we're going to just say this is a nice shot because we're coming down the end here. Almost looks like a miniature, right, Juan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it almost looks like a miniature, but you have that water is just mesmerizing. I wonder where he got this water. I know I've said the word mesmerizing a lot, but I think these blue images kind of like captivate me and draw me in.
They're really, really beautiful. Okay, Trisha's been here before, right? Look at this, Jaipur, the blue city. I love this. This kind of has something in common with this. The main subject is small, and here the main subject is relatively small in the frame.
Yeah, no, I
Very,
love the juxtaposition and the environmental shot. Really nice. And,
yeah.
I am a sucker for clean images. So these images really,
Yeah.
really go after my sense of cleanliness in images and making them nice and simple and obvious.
Yeah, I love this. I love his expression and the green and the green. And Phototherapy Live would not be Phototherapy Live without a Tommy Armstrong picture, right? I mean, he
That
does
is
these,
Absolutely.
right.
right, Alec, right?
Absolutely.
I
And
don't know
he
if
is
he's here.
here.
He's here. Tommy, thank you so much for sharing
Mm.
these close-up abstracts.
Yeah, don't read the description too closely. Just enjoy the image. Don't think about too
Okay,
much of what
well,
this is. But it's
okay, there
awesome.
we go. It is awesome. No, it is really. Tommy, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I just, it's so,
Biosolids, that's all you have to know.
yeah. You know what? I'm gonna go back. I'm just looking at the picture, right? It's
Yeah,
great.
just look at the picture.
Okay, Jean Duffy, a beautiful picture. Uh, I love her composition here, the way we have the reflection of the lighthouse. I think these ripples add a lot. So I don't know if Jean waited for the ripples or a boat went by and created the ripples. Uh, it does look like we might have a little bit of noise here, but it might be because it's a low resolution image. But we could use, are you using Topaz denoise, Juan?
Oh,
Or you just use light?
absolutely. No,
Yeah.
Topaz
Oh,
Denoise. I'm not. You know me. I'm not big into plugins,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
I make a big exception for Topaz Denoise. It
Yeah.
is black magic. It is just
It
amazing
is.
how good it is.
Yeah, so if you haven't tried it for our members, definitely give it a try. And Alec, I think you would agree, a live session wouldn't be a session without Sissy. I don't know if
Yes.
Sissy is
Sissy's
here.
here today and very active in the YouTube chat.
Well, we had a picture. It's like when they give out door prizes at an event, right? They give them at the end so people hang in. So Sissy, we put your picture, your beautiful picture, at the end so you would hang in. Someone said, not on this one, but they said, Sissy, you're nailing it. She must have posted how many, Alec? About 6 or 8 amazing.
Oh yeah, they were just
You know, the
this
Blue
is
Angels
fantastic, and the others are equally as amazing.
Again, a nice square crop we have. Martha
Mm.
did a beautiful job. Juan, what do you think about these layers?
Yeah, this is Klingman's Dome, which is probably my favorite spot in Great Smoky National Park. It's a place that gets covered in photographers every time you're there, but there's a reason for it. The reason for it is because you get these layers, these amazing layers, and now you get why they're called the Blue Ridge Mountains is because that's smoky, and why it's called the Smoky Mountains National Park. It's because you get this blue smoky color to the mountains, and it makes an incredible juxtaposition with that orange light. One tip to do when you're here for this type of shot, especially out there in Klingman's Dome, and I've seen this many times. Like I said, I used to run workshops there, and I've been out there to photograph. I lived in North Carolina for over a dozen years. You go out there and you see there's 50 other photographers waiting for the sunrise, and as soon as the sun pops up from the mountains, everybody packs up and leaves. And oftentimes you may get better light a little later on, especially if you have clouds hanging around. So don't be in a rush to leave. Stick around for half an hour after sunset, or even after sunrise as well, because you never know what you may get. And this is just absolutely beautiful shot. Very emblematic of the Great Smoky National Mountains Park and of Klingman's Dome. As soon as I saw this, I knew this was from Klingman's Dome.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful, beautiful shot. Okay,
I don't
Gene,
have anything. I've been there and I have nothing like that one. It's amazing.
go back to this one. Okay, I thought this was very creative. Jean did this somewhere in time. Again, she put a title on it. So we encourage you guys to maybe put a title on an image. It might help you define what the image is saying. I think it's beautiful, beautiful, nice and blue. Ted Johnson, he's been on a few workshops. I was teaching a workshop out in Mono Lake. I thought the composition here was beautiful. I think because it's a low resolution image, we see the noise here. But again, Juan, what do you think of the composition here, the way he framed, these tufas by these tufas?
You know, this is a place I've never been to, and I'm dying to go.
Oh.
Mono Lake. I have never been there before, but I got to make it out there sometime. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, there's so much you can see here, and we start seeing shapes, right? This almost looks like a person talking to another person, or
Yeah.
someone laying down, or. But I love the way that he composed those faraway tufas with the ones in the foreground. Again, gives a little bit of context. You know, the one thing I do notice is that I do see some halos around the edge
Yeah.
of the tufas there, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe it's a little bit too much processing that went on. Not sure, but that's
so.
something you want to keep an eye out on, Ted, is, you know, make sure you don't, watch out for those halos around the image, especially when you have high contrast between that really dark silhouetted tufa against the light sky.
It might be HDR. Well, Juan, if you go there and if you teach a workshop, I have a really good tip for you.
Oh, yeah, what's that?
Don't do the workshop in June, as we did on the longest day of the year, when sunrise is at 4:45, because we had to wake up at like 3 o'clock, leave the hotel at like 3:25, and drive there. So don't do a workshop on the longest day of the year, but you will get some good pictures. And we're going to end with another picture by Claude. I just thought it was beautiful, the way he had the beautiful sky here, and that he saw, you know, this beautiful bench here. So great job, Claude. Well, my friends, how do I get rid of the chat there?
This is another great, showcase of images from people in phototherapy. And, you know, this topic was brilliant. I'm not sure who came up with this topic, if it was Alec or you, Rick, but it was definitely very, a resounding success.
Well, let's talk among ourselves and see what we can come up with for maybe squirrels for next year.
Yeah, they're active. They're out there.
Right?
Well,
They're
this year,
definitely
at least here, it's a mast year, so there are acorns everywhere. So next year, we're going to have a population boom for sure.
Oh,
well,
great.
We want to thank our members for tuning in. Alec, thank you for reading the questions. Juan, thank you so much for masterminding all this, recording it, getting it on the Facebook page, putting it on YouTube. So from here in Croton-on-Hudson, New York, I want to say thank you, and let you guys say thank you.
It almost sounds like you were podcasting in from Digital Photo Experience, right? Broadcasting from Croton-on-Hudson, New York.
Croton-on-Hudson, New York, right?
Well, folks, thanks for joining us again. And remember, we do this every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. So make sure to join us and keep an eye out on the phototherapy group for the topic for next week's session. Well, take care, folks. See you next week.
I'll just close. Sorry to talk over you, Juan, by just saying, as people are leaving us, the energy and the good feeling that everyone had for the topic tonight is just very gratifying, and it just shows that we're fulfilling our mission in terms of what this venture and this page and this community are all about.
Absolutely.
Okay, guys, take care.
See you later.